Unwanted cymbal buildup in room tracks are a nightmare to deal with in a mix. In this clip, TLA walks you through how he took the room tracks that contained a good amount of undesired cymbal information and turned them into the depth that would glue the entire drum mix together. Enjoy.
Most of you cats out there were trying to figure out what to do with them.
They sure were.
Okay. So, well, again, so I showed you what it sounded like, and you all know what it sounded like without manipulation. But you may be going, well, geez, Tom, you're adding 10 dB of 5K. Isn't that going to make it worse? I don't know. I think it's going to. It probably is. But let's hear. So here's that. Again, so we're just soloed. If I just flip the EQ out here. So what I've done is I guess you could say I've created it to make a little bit more. The only words I can look for is hi-fi. So what I've tried to do here is to at least get that annoying frequency to be out of the guitar distortion range, okay? And then I warmed it up by adding a shit ton of 50 cycles, okay? So it's actually below where there's bottom end on that. So, right. There's a reason why I did it, because it's shelved, okay? It's adding frequencies above it as well. So what I did is I just turned the EQ up all the way and then moved the frequency till I got it the way I wanted it to sound. It just happened to be how I did it on this particular one. And then again, then I lowered the volume of it by 17 dB, okay? Ended up with this. So if we listen to the whole drum set, and then I'll go through the other tracks in a second, but listening to the whole drum set, in and out, what that track, for my ear, what it provides, it's the only thing that I could get to provide is depth. Okay, so it's providing the depth, apparent depth.
Got it.
Okay. Now, I'm gonna show you a trick. So the only one, the track that I felt was probably, well, let's see. Let me turn the plugins off on this track and see how bad this one was. I mean, they're about the same going across the board, okay? So, but for some reason, this was the track I probably chose to feature because I think it had a little bit more, I think that this track had a little bit more of that snare ambience I was looking for. And again, you can see, I'm using the plug-in fader to do the work. But those of you who are looking at it going, well, wait, how come it sounds so different and you're not adding any EQ? TLA top tip number 2. De-essers aren't just for vocals anymore. The cool thing about this particular plugin, the 902 emulation, is when he finally stops doing the cymbal stuff, it opens the top end up again. You know what I mean? So again, you can kind of, so if I was, see, let's screw around with this. Excuse me. So let's play this. And again, you can go into, you can solo the DS mode, you know, and hear exactly what you want to DS, or listen to the detector. Okay, so you can hear exactly where you want to do it. How I do it is, again, I do it just like this, and I turn it all the range all the way, and just do this to where I feel I've lost the offending frequency. And let's see how close I was paced. I was pretty darn close, right? When I just did it like that, okay? And then again, then you could just dial the range out. See, but the problem I have with this is it opening up on the bass drum and making the bass drum go psh. So that's why I left it like this. So in other words, I substituted fidelity in this case because I was dealing with a track that was problematic. So I substitute fidelity for vibe, okay? Because I need some room ambience. And that's the fix. So TLA top tip number 2, de-essers are not just for vocals anymore, okay? And
someone just said that that's their favorite de-esser in the world.
yes, there's very good reason why the DBX 900 series were in every studio in the world, because they're the best. This is the only plugin that I found that emulates it.
Yeah, people are very impressed with that de-esser.
Yeah, it's the only plugin. And okay, so look, just to skip ahead, look at this. Look, hey, let's take a look. What's on the snare drum? Huh? How you doing? How you doing? So this trick goes back to the 80s for me. You know, that goes back to the origin, you know, of my career. This was a trick that I learned out of necessity. You know what I mean? How do I deal with live drum sets where the hi-hat is leaking through the snare drum? And this was my go-to. In high frequency only mode, okay? Big difference. If you have it, oops, I'm doing the wrong one. I'm going big difference and then I hit the button and it does nothing. So remember, in high frequency only mode, pressing the high frequencies. Okay? As opposed to that, which is compressing the whole thing. See, I got admonished for talking while audio was playing through the speakers. I'm a bad engineer. I deserve to be punished. Anyway, sorry about that. Yes, I shouldn't be talking while audio is playing. I should be listening. So yeah, it's a good little trick. So again, I'm using the rooms to create depth, okay? On this particular song, I have to be honest with you, this 414 room was unfucking usable. Okay? And again, let's just buy.
Point one thing out.
Yes.
I just want to point one thing out. What you just said, that's unusable. So if something is unusable and you deem it unusable, you will not use it. And I just want to point that out because I think some people feel like they have to use everything no matter what. Like there's some rule.
Look, first, I am the king of taking 10 pounds of salami and stick it in a 5-pound bag. I'm the king of it, okay? But it doesn't mean that if you have 10 pounds of salami that you have to shove it in 5 pounds of bag, in a 5-pound bag. And the point that I'm trying to make is, just because the channel is there doesn't mean you have to use it. I get tracks all the time where guys have sent me like here's where I know I'm in trouble. Let me put it this way. When I get a drum recording and I see 6 room mics, I know I'm in deep shit. And here's when I know I'm not in deep shit. When I get a drum recording and there's either 2 mics or 3 mics on the room. Okay? Because anything more than 2 mics or 3 mics, I prefer 3 mics, left, right, and mono. Okay? That's my preference. Anything more than that pretty much means your drum sound sucks. Okay? Yeah. Because you keep putting microphones up to compensate for shit. And that was obviously the case here. He's got 2 sets of, actually has 5 room mics up there. Okay? Each sounding worse than the one prior. Unfortunately. But, you know, I don't want to throw the engineer under the bus. Okay? Because this was more than likely, the way this was recorded, okay? Remember, this is, what did I say, 14 years ago. We're still kind of in, you know, everybody's still getting their feet wet, or they're starting to accept now Pro Tools, but they're still, most likely, was going through an analog console, going through analog outboard gear, and being recorded, because I hear compression on there. And I don't hear plug-in compression, I hear 1176s. Okay, so more than likely he was using hardware, and he went for it. He would have done exactly what I would have done. Period. You know, The only difference I would have made was I would have gone to the drummer and I would have said, show me your right hand. And he would have stuck his right hand and I would have gone, I would have said, too heavy on the hi-hat. And then I would have brought him in the room and played him. Here's what it's doing to the sound. If you just lay off of it a little bit, or we get darker hi-hats, But again, I wasn't in the room. I'm not I am a recording engineer, but I specialize in mixing. Okay, so I don't record stuff anymore. I mix. So therefore, I've come across every conceivable problem there is. And again, I'd much rather have guys that go for it with recording. And even if they fail, it doesn't matter. At least they went for it, and I can sort something out of it, rather than just a document.
Well, you can try to understand their intent this way.
Yeah, exactly. So again, the 414 room was unusable. I'm not going to play it. You know what it did. But what I did do, so it wasn't usable. It was not usable in the sections where the cymbals were playing, but I did not mind it in the chorus sections. Okay, so again, if we go to the chorus section and we just highlight it, again, you see what I'm doing. I'm adding a boatload of bottom end, and let's just listen to what it does. Right? If I take the bottom end out, kind of thin. Okay, so we put the bottom end back in. So all I'm really using this track for is to create ambience on those tom-toms, on those tom-tom sections. So let's hear the whole drum set here, and I'll flip it in and out, and you can hear, again, it's going to be subtle. It's really just used to add the impression or the feeling of depth being added. Again, it's very, very subtle. To be quite honest, I could have left that track out, and nobody would notice. But it just, as I was mixing the track, I liked what it was doing. The bulk of the work here in this particular section is being done by the AMS drum reverb, which sounds like this. Okay, and all that's just, again, that's the RMX 16, which Universal Audio makes a very faithful recreation of the AMS reverb, set to ambience with probably a 5 or 6 second decay time, with the tom-toms and the snare drums going through. It was a standard operating trick that we did back in the day, known as a snare bomb, where you would go, bah! And that's basically what I used it for, and I just happened to print it. Okay, but remember, it didn't come in printed that way, so you didn't get it that way. You had to figure out what it was, okay? I had printed that, okay? So that covers, the drum rooms and some of the problems that we had.